Dr. Neeraj Mittal, Secretary DOT, will be joining us shortly. So let's begin with the welcome address. May I request Shri Atul Kumar Chaudhary, Secretary TRI, to kindly present his welcome address.
Very good morning to all of you. Dr. P. Chandrasekhar, Minister of State for Communication, Mr. Doreen B. Martin, Secretary General ITU, Mr. Matt Gennard, Director General GSMA, Sri Anil Kumar Lahoti, Chairperson TRI, Dr. Mittal is joining shortly. All head of regulators present here, esteemed speakers and delegates representing many regulators, officers of DOT, TRI, and other government departments, representative of telecom industry, academia, and friends from media and electronic and visual media, ladies and gentlemen. With great honor and immense pleasure, I extend warm welcome to all of you to this international conference on telecom regulators organized by Telecom Regulatory Authority of India on the sideline of WTSA and IMC 24 to explore the theme of emerging trends in regulations. Your presence here today signifies the importance of our gathering and reflect our collective commitment to face the regulatory challenges in the telecom sector. In the international conference scheduled today, we have planned 3 sessions, namely regulatory perspective on standardization, regulatory aspects of satellite communication, including other non-terrestrial communication, and also on regulatory outlook on OTT communication. The eminent speaker during the conference will share their thought on pertinent issues during the 3 sessions, which I am sure would be highly engaging and enriching. I urge all of you to participate actively in the discussion and share your valuable insight. I also take this opportunity to welcome His Excellency Dr. Mohammed, Governor, Communication, Space and Technology Commission, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, with whom we are going to sign a MU today. I also extend warm welcome to Ms. Asuku Okuda, Regional Director I2, and other senior officers of I2 in this conference. I wish you all a comfortable and pleasant stay in Delhi, and I am sure you will take back good memories of New Delhi when you return back to your respective places. I once again extend a warm welcome to all of you and look forward for a meaningful and insightful deliberation during the conference. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chaudhary. Due to some official exigency, Mr. Sindhya ji, the Minister of Communication, Minister of Development of Northeast Region, is unable to come today, though he was very eager to join, so he has sent his message. So I would request Mr. Chaudhary, Secretary TRI, to kindly read the message.
Thank you, and it's my privilege to read out the message of Honorable Minister in a very short paras. So while congratulating TRI, Honorable Minister has said that a regulator has a sacred responsibility to safeguard the interest of consumers along with their myriad duties. He has further stated that evaluation of NTN will unlock the new vistas, expanding the horizon of communication technologies and fostering innovative use cases and applications across diverse sectors, ultimately serving the greater good of society and advancing our collective journey toward the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal. He has also called upon regulators to deliberate on the issues related to OTT communication. He has further stated that India was positioned as follower of 4G technology, but marched along with the world in 5G adaptation by achieving faster rollout ever world has ever seen. Now India will lead in 6G revolution in the days to come. He has conveyed his heartfelt congratulations to both TRI and Communication, Space and Technology Commission of Saudi Arabia for signing an MOU, and wished a abundant success in their future endeavor, and also wished the International Regulatory Conference a great success. Thank you.
Indeed, gratitude and thank you to Minister Ji for actually sending across his words of wisdom. May I request the Chairman Try, Mr. Anil Kumar Lahoti, to kindly come and address the August gathering. Mr. Lahoti, please.
Honorable Minister of State for Communication, Mr. Chandrasekhar Pemasani ji, Ms. Doreen Bogdan Martin, Secretary General ITU, Mr. Max Grandid, Director General GSMA, distinguished dignitaries and heads of regulators present here today, esteemed speakers and delegates, members from press and media, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed my honor and pleasure to welcome you all for this International Conference of Telecommunication Regulators this morning. The presence of delegates of regulators across the globe in New Delhi for the WTSA 24 provided us this opportunity to gather here and discuss on some important and topical subjects of telecom sector. In today's session, we will deliberate on regulatory perspectives on standardization, on satellite communication, including other non-terrestrial networks, and on OTT communication. The first session is about regulatory perspectives on standardization. Standardization is an important aspect for any technology as it ensures that different networks, devices, and services interwork seamlessly. Standardization plays a critical role in telecom domain as telecom technologies change very fast and multiple technologies have to coexist in a service provider's network. Further, interoperability between service providers and across geographical territories also demands standardization. An important aspect in telecom is delivering quality of service, which is a life cycle activity, and can only be ensured through adoption of QoS by design approach. Standards for each segment of the network, whether it is radio, core, or backhaul, need to be defined to meet the end-to-end quality of service requirement. As regulators, our foremost responsibility is to safeguard the interest of consumers. Accordingly, regulators' role in the standardization life cycle is critical to ensure that customers' needs are properly addressed. Therefore, we thought that this is important to discuss various dimensions of this aspect in this conference. Recently, in August 2024, TRAI notified quality of service regulations prescribing revised QoS standards for various services after detailed consultations with all stakeholders. It is worth mentioning that the regulations prescribed by TRAI now for the QoS monitoring require monitoring at granular level and standardize the measurement methodologies to assess the QoS performance. The second session is about regulatory aspects of satellite communication, including other non-terrestrial networks. The significant advancements in satellite communication and its wide coverage have enabled its commercial use across various sectors, including broadcasting and telecommunications. Many countries are supporting the deployment of satellite communications to deliver reliable and cost-effective broadband services, especially in remote and challenging terrains. Satellite systems, along with terrestrial networks, can provide seamless connectivity across the globe and also during natural disasters when terrestrial networks often get affected. Non-terrestrial networks provide alternative reliable communication services. And satellite communication can help also to meet the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals for extending connectivity beyond traditional networks. Recently, TRAI has also recommended a new framework under the Telecommunications Act 2023, introducing a unified service authorization under which authorized entity can provide different telecommunication services, including satellite-based communication services on a pan-India basis. For success of the integration of terrestrial network with the NTN, various aspects need to be deliberated. Many governments and regulators around the world are currently engaged in this process of formulating policy. Today's conference provides an opportunity to exchange thoughts on this important subject. The third session is about regulatory outlook of OTT communication. The rise of over-the-top communication services such as messaging apps and VoIP platforms has transformed global communication by offering innovative and convenient ways to connect. While these services have benefited consumers and businesses, certain regulatory issues have been raised, especially by the law enforcement agencies and by traditional telecommunication providers. Unlike telecom services that are subjected to structured regulations, OTT providers do not operate under the same framework, and the issues have been raised about fair competition and regulatory disparity. Regulators around the world face the difficult task of maintaining a balance between fostering innovation and ensuring a fair and competitive market environment. Cross-border nature of OTT services further makes it more complicated. I hope that today's deliberations will prove helpful to the participating regulators in throwing more light on this important regulatory challenge posed by OTT communications. It is also my pleasure to share that today is a memorable day for TRAI as we sign an MOU, that is Memorandum of Understanding, with the esteemed Communications, Space and Technology Commission, the ICT regulator of Saudi Arabia, and I would like to thank His Excellency Dr. Mohammed Saud Al Tamimi, Governor of CST, who has taken special interest in signing this bilateral agreement. And I am also happy to share that TRAI has signed 20 such bilateral agreements with many international regulators and organizations. And these agreements give us a scope to collaborate with other regulators and exchange views on many regulatory issues. With this, once again, I welcome all the delegates who have traveled far and wide to be with us today. Hope you all will have a comfortable and pleasant stay and will also take good memories when you return. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lahoti. We move ahead. May I request Mr. Max Grandred, the DGGSMA, to kindly present his special address.
So, honorable ministers, distinguished guests, it's a real honor to be here with you today. Now, before I begin, I'd like to extend my sincere congratulations to Honorable Minister, Mr. Scindia, on assuming the leadership on this telecom ministry. I just came from a breakfast round table, and it was quite impressive to see all the business leaders, all the political leadership in the same room, really taking steps forward. That's the way to drive an industry, so big congratulations on that. India is doing very well, but there are still activities that needs to be done. And, I have this great quote from Mahatma Gandhi, which goes that the future depends on what we do in the present. So last week, India lost a great business leader, Mr. Ratan Tata, who I think truly embraced this idea. Now, I had the privilege of meeting Mr. Tata a couple of times, and I was always struck by his sincerity, his knowledge, and his deep passion of making technology work for the many, making sure that we are all included in one way or another. And he was a true role model. So it's a great loss for India, it's a great loss for the world. And may he rest in peace. As we gather here this week, I think it is important to a reminder for us all that the conversations we have and the decisions we make at events like this will impact the future. In recent years, we've seen 5G take off across India. As I said, India, the government of India has done a really remarkable journey here. Today, there is 135 million 5G unique subscribers on 5G, and this will grow to more than 640 million by 2030. An amazing, amazing growth. And this doesn't happen by chance. No, it happens because there's a strategic decisions made years ago, and that we're now seeing the result of. So congratulations. Today, I want to talk about three things that I believe India needs to focus on. The first one is investments. 5G is growing rapidly, we know that, and mobile data traffic is growing really fast. India has some of the highest data traffics in the world. But keeping up with the growing customer demand comes at a great cost for operators. Across Asia Pacific, we will, as mobile operators, invest $270 billion from now to 2030 in mobile capex alone. And this will only keep growing as AI and other technologies will take off. As we look to the future, we must ensure the responsible use of network capacity and energy consumption. Here in India, mobile traffic is growing more than 50% annually. 50% annually, data traffic is growing. And we know that over 80% of this traffic is generated only by a handful of players. So we're not building the networks for the many, we're actually building the networks for the few. All of this is placing intense pressure on our connectivity infrastructure, and it is just not sustainable. If we want to keep driving digital transformation, we need policies and regulations that will support the right kind of environment for this investment. As an industry, we are ready to work with governments and other players to make the right decisions now, and that will allow for sustainable investments and growth for the future. The second area is spectrum. Now, as India evolves 5G through 5G Advanced and beyond, the upper 6 gigahertz band is only mid-band spectrum we currently have to respond to the data traffic demands of the future. Last year at WRC 23, the decisions was made to harmonize the 6 gigahertz in every ITU region. And this was a pivotal milestone. And now it's up to the countries to develop national plans to assign the band. And in India, mobile market powered by 6 gigahertz spectrum will launch a new phase of digital developments. So the decisions you make on this today will reach into the future. The third area is, the third decision is around closing the digital divide. In India, we have some of the fastest rollout of 5G in the world. Absolutely. Brilliant. But we also have a big gap. 46% of the population who live within a mobile broadband coverage are still not using mobile internet. We call that the usage gap. We don't need more base stations. We don't need any satellites. The coverage is there. In a digital future, we cannot afford to leave anyone behind. And we know what the barriers are. It's affordability, it's lack of skills, digital skills, it's relevant content, and it's safety and security concerns. And we're already doing a lot to address these things. Just like the successful rollout of 5G didn't happen by chance, closing the usage gap is not going to happen by chance. We need to make strategic decisions today to work together across industries, organizations, to tackle the barriers and create a world where everyone and everything is connected. Now, those were the three things. So, of course, there are many more decisions to make in a world where technology keeps evolving. The future truly does depend on what we do in the present. So 30 years ago, many thought the mobile industry would be a niche industry suited only for the rich and famous. But the decisions we made back then mean that today we connect over 5.6 billion people, almost 2/3 of everyone on this planet. So I'll ask again, what decisions will we make today that will impact the world for a better in 30 years from now? This week is a fantastic opportunity to discuss this, and I look forward to some great debate together. Thank you so much for listening, and wish everyone a successful conference. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Grandred, for your words. May I move ahead? I would like to invite the Secretary General of ITU, Ms. Doreen Bogdan-Martin, to kindly present her keynote address to the gathering. Ms. Martin.
Good morning, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. It's always such a pleasure to be kind of surrounded by regulators, and it's exciting to see that this room is standing room only, so clearly an indication of the strong interest in the role of regulation as we look to the future. And of course, it's great to have this event on the sidelines of the WTSA, which kicked off yesterday. We spoke yesterday and the day before about the strong ties between the ITU and India. And of course, India actually joined the ITU in 1869, so 4 years after we were created, and they've been with us strongly for 156 years. And when I look to TRAI, which was created in 1997, I think we have that same kind of close collaboration. Actually, when we convened the first gathering of the Global Symposium of Regulators, which was in the year 2000, we were delighted to have India, TRAI, with us at that very first GSR. And I was thinking back to what we discussed at that first GSR, comparing to what we are discussing today. And at that first GSR, top of the agenda, no surprise, I think, was interconnection. I think that's still an issue today in different ways. The other big issue was regulatory strategies to help expand and increase internet connectivity. Back in the year 2000, anyone want to guess how many people, what percentage of the world population was connected to the internet? Year 2000. Selena, you can't guess. Governor, you want to guess? Less than 7%. Okay, so this was a top issue for this gathering of the world regulators, was what could they do to actually increase access to the internet. It was 7%. The other big issue was convergence, and that's still a big issue, but it was a different kind of convergence. Back then, we were talking about convergence of telecommunications with broadcasting. That was the issue. And of course today, and we've heard already from our distinguished leaders, we're talking about many other different kinds of convergence, including how artificial intelligence fits in there. So earlier this year, and some of you joined us in Kampala, we held the Global Symposium for Regulators. And of course, the governor will hold next year's Global Symposium for Regulators in Saudi Arabia. And so some of the big issues that we looked at was how can you regulate for impact? That was the issue. And what does that mean in a digital landscape that's so much more complex than it was back in the year 2000? So we looked at issues like, can our networks withstand the growing number of cyber attacks that are increasing by 80% year on year? And how can our networks be more resilient? How will things like AI-driven deepfakes and disinformation further erode public trust in technology? And will everyone truly benefit from the global space economy? It's great that space is also an issue here. And the space economy is expected to reach $1.8 trillion by 2035. So how can we make sure, as regulators, that everyone can truly benefit from what's happening in space? And of course, will our industry meet its ecological responsibility as we get dangerously close to the 1.5-degree planetary boundary? Those were the issues that we tackled. Just last week, the Nobel Prizes in chemistry and physics, I think, confirm what many regulators already knew, which is that the power of technology transcends fields of disciplines, because digital is a breaker of silos. And I think that's something that has really changed since we held that first GSR back in the year 2000. And that's why we see our regulators continuing to transform, working closely with different line ministries, from education to infrastructure to health to space, agriculture. And at the same time, as we heard at the GSR and at our first ever AI Governance Day, and again at our inaugural Space Sustainability Forum, and at the GSS, the Global Standards Symposium that took place here on Monday, there is, when we look to emerging tech, there's no pause button. So regulators can't hit that pause button. And we have to find ways to keep the pace with this rapidly evolving digital sector. And I think we have an incentive and we have a responsibility to act, because we need to make sure, as Matt's also mentioned, that we don't leave anyone behind. And today we have a third of humanity that is never, ever connected to the internet. And so we need to make sure that we find the balance and we leave no one behind. As I mentioned also yesterday, I think the world has a lot to learn from the experience of India, of course, taking the unified payments interface as, I think, an amazing example, the Aadhaar digital identity system, and as well as other building blocks that India has put in place in their digital economy. India's digital infrastructure, bolstered by one of the fastest 5G networks in the world, extends connectivity to urban centers, but also to the hardest to connect, to those rural communities through issues like the BharatNet that we also heard about yesterday. And all of this really requires vision, as we heard from the Prime Minister yesterday, and it requires forward-looking, cross-sectoral policy and collaborative regulation. I think India is leading by example, and it's great that India is so willing to share its knowledge and its experience, especially in digital public infrastructure, with all of us, again, as the Prime Minister mentioned in our inaugural ceremony yesterday. And of course, ITU, as the UN Agency for Digital Technologies, helps to bring these kinds of discussions together. We're an inclusive platform of 194 countries, more than 1,000 private sector members, academic members, many of which are gathered in this room, but here in Delhi this week for the WTSA. And I think that's why your participation in fora like this one, and of course the Global Symposium for Regulators that I mentioned, the WTSA, is really, really crucial. Since the emergence of generative AI, governments have really been racing to put things in place to establish protections around AI development, deployment, and use. And yet, in one of our recent surveys, we saw that actually 85% of the ITU member states have yet to put any policy or regulatory framework in place. Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe it's something we need to be looking at together, but it's a small percentage of countries that are actually putting in place regulatory frameworks. And those that are not there yet are eager to learn, they want a seat at the table, and they want to be able to share their experiences and needs with all of you. And I think the WTSA offers a perfect opportunity to pick up where those GSR discussions earlier this year left off. And Governor, perhaps you can continue next year with those discussions when you gather us for the GSR. And so I hope in our discussions here and over the next 8 days that we can find new ways, to innovate, we can find new ways to experiment, and as our friend from Ericsson said on Monday, to explore, that we as regulators can find ways to be able to explore, because ultimately at the end of the day, it's about the public, it's about our citizens, it's about those consumers, and we need to make our best efforts to make sure that the regulations that are put in place are not stifling, but actually helping innovation to flourish while at the same time protecting consumer interest. And so that means engaging all stakeholders in our regulatory processes. It means continuing to build interoperability, to continue to ensure interconnectivity, not fragmentation and further inequalities, and finally, making that balance between emerging technologies, innovation, and managing and mitigating potential risks. I think no matter how fast innovation races ahead, we need to make a commitment to leave no one behind. And with that, wonderful to see everyone here this morning and look forward to the discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Martin. It's indeed an honor for us to have Honorable Dr. Chandrasekhar Ji with us. It's time for his inaugural session. May I please request Honorable Dr. Chandrasekhar Ji to kindly present his address.
Thank you. Secretary General, ITU, Ms. Doreen Martin, Chairperson, Telecom Regulatory Authority of India, Mr. Anil Lahoti, Secretary Telecom, Dr. Neeraj Mittal, who is not here, Director General, GSMA, Mr. Mats Granrid, Secretary Troy, Mr. Atul Chaudhary, honorable dignitaries, esteemed guests, ladies and gentlemen, namaste. It is my honor and privilege to welcome you all to the pivotal International Conference of Telecom Regulators. It's great to see this event being held alongside the prestigious WTSA 2024 and India Mobile Congress 2024. These platforms coming together mark a significant moment in our journey as regulators, policymakers, and industry leaders to navigate the rapidly evolving landscape of telecommunications. In telecommunications, regulatory effectiveness creates an environment for sectoral development. Regulators should make these regulations minimal, especially in competitive markets. Excessive regulation can hinder the benefits of privatization and liberalization. As competition increases, the regulations must decrease accordingly. In this regard, Telecom Regulatory Authority of India has done an exceptional job in shaping the Indian telecom ecosystem. Regulatory agencies must earn and sustain the public trust by addressing the issues that matter most to consumers and not just focusing on technical regulatory frameworks. Transparency in decision-making enhances both the credibility of the agencies and the legitimacy of their decisions in the eyes of the public. Regulatory decision-making must also be guided by objectivity, professionalism, efficiency, and independence. An independent regulator inspires confidence among the telecom operators and investors. This is why the Government of India, under the able leadership of Sri Narendra Modi ji, has created the TROI as a completely independent body. One of the key pillars of today's discussion is standardization. As we gather alongside the ITU's World Telecommunication Standardization Assembly, it is clear that global collaboration in setting standards is essential for the seamless integration of the new technologies. The digital world is borderless, and so must be our approach to standardization. We must enhance an inclusive regulatory perspective, ensuring that all players, from the largest resource-rich countries to the smallest resource-limited countries, and largest multinational firms to the smallest startups, have a voice in shaping standards that drive innovation while ensuring fairness and security. Regulatory bodies must be proactive, not reactive, in defining frameworks that can keep pace with the technological advancements such as 5G, artificial intelligence, and Internet of Things. In this regard, India is proud to be a leading voice in global telecom standardization discussions, especially through TROI's initiatives to collaborate with global regulators, ITU, and other international organizations. The second important aspect is satellite communications and non-terrestrial networks. The proliferation of non-terrestrial networks presents both opportunities and regulatory challenges. Non-terrestrial networks extend connectivity using geostationary and non-geostationary satellites, unplanned aerial vehicles, and high-altitude platforms. While these innovations are transformative, they require precise regulatory oversight to ensure safe and efficient operations. The ITU plays a vital role in managing satellite orbits, preventing interference, and coordinating global coverage. Environmental regulations protect against space debris. Effective regulation also promotes fair competition and pricing, fostering innovation while protecting consumers' interest. The third most important aspect in this conference is OTT services and their regulatory challenges. Over-the-top communications services have transformed the way we communicate. Regulators worldwide must strike a delicate balance, promoting innovation without stifling technological progress, while ensuring that OTT services operate within a fair and secure framework. Throughout this conference, we hope to have engaging discussions, share best practices, and explore solutions to these pressing regulatory challenges. I would like to extend my sincere thanks to TROI for their tireless efforts in organizing this event. Your contributions have made this gathering possible and successful. Let us work towards in creating a regulatory framework that promotes innovation, protects consumers, and empowers our global community to thrive in the digital age. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Honorable Minister, for your words of wisdom. It's time for the presentation of the mementos. May I request Mr. Anil Kumar Lahoti, the Chairman TROI, to kindly give the memento to Honorable Dr. Chandrasekhar ji. It's indeed an honor to have you here for the inaugural ceremony. Can we have the memento, please? May I request the Honorable Minister to please kindly, you can have it. May I request the Principal Advisor, QoS and IT, Mr. Mahendra Srivastava, to kindly give the memento to Doreen Bogdan, the Secretary General, ITU. May I request the Principal Advisor, BNCS, Mr. A.S. Verma, to kindly give the memento to Mr. Max Grandred, the DG, GSMA. May I request the Principal Advisor, NSL, Mr. S.B. Singh, to kindly give the memento to Mr. Anil Kumar Lahoti, Chairman, TRI. Thank you very much. May I request the dignitaries to kindly be seated. So now it's the time for the signing of the MOU. TRI has been having a good bilateral relations with many international regulators. It has signed 20 bilateral agreements so far with other regulators and international organizations. TRI and Communication, Space and Technology Commission, the ICT regulator of Saudi Arabia, have been having excellent bilateral relations. The proposal to make this bilateral relation into a formal one was initiated a few years back. And after long deliberations and discussion, both the sides agreed to sign a memorandum of understanding, and the draft of MOU was approved by the Cabinet, Government of India, and the highest authority in the Government of Saudi Arabia. Through this MOU, both the sides have agreed for a number of corporate activities which will result in mutual benefit. Now I would like to request the Chairman TRI, Mr. Lahoti, to kindly come to the signing table for signing of MOU. I also request His Excellency, Dr. Mohammed Saud Al Tamami, who will be signing the Memorandum of Understanding in the presence of Honorable Minister. Thank you so much, Mr. Lahoti and His Excellency Dr. Mohammed Saud Al Tamami. May I request the Advisor, Admin, and Aya, Ms. Vandana Sethi TRI, to kindly present the vote of thanks.
honorable dignitaries on the dais, excellencies, heads of regulators, esteemed speakers and moderators for today's sessions, and representatives from regulators around the world, from telecom industry associations, representatives from media, colleagues, and friends. As we come to the end of inaugural session of today, it indeed is a proud privilege for me. It's an honor to thank all those who have made organization of this International Conference of Regulators possible on behalf of Telecom Regulatory Authority of India. First of all, our gratitude to Honorable Minister of Communications. He could not be present here today, however, for sending his good wishes and blessings for the conference. We thank him. I express sincere gratitude to Honorable Minister of State, Dr. Chandrasekhar, for gracing this occasion with his august presence and also for delivering an inaugural address with vision and with good words for TRAI. Thank you, sir. So we are extremely grateful to Ms. Doreen Bogdan-Martin, Secretary General ITU, for being present here. It's because of ITU's WTSA that we got this opportunity to have more than 30 regulators from different parts of the world come together for this conference. Thank you very much to ITU and ma'am. Sincere thanks are due to Mr. Maths Granid, Director General GSMA, for his presence, his special address, as well as wholehearted support from GSMA for today's conference. We have GSMA speakers for all our sessions today. So thank you so much. We thank the Honorable Excellencies and heads of regulators who are present here and will also be participating in some of the sessions from CST, Turkey, PTC, Paraguay, Bokra, Cambodia. Thank you very much for supporting this initiative of TRAI. I express my gratitude to Honorable Chairman Shri Anil Kumar Lahoti ji for his able guidance. It was this idea of this conference was conceptualized by him, and he has been with us on each step for all the minute details of organization of this conference. Thank you, sir. I also thank Secretary TRAI for his support in all of our efforts towards organization of this conference. I would also like to thank the speakers and moderators who are from various regulatory bodies and industry for your active participation and contribution. We thank Department of Telecom, COI, and IMC, who are organizers of IMC and who have provided all the logistic supports for this conference. Special thanks to Airtel for supporting us with providing internet connectivity for the conference. And we thank all the delegates for making it convenient to attend the conference, and we hope that they'll find the conference useful. And in the end, I would also like to thank members of all the organizing committee of TRAI for their relentless efforts for the past few days for making this conference happen. Thank you, and wish you all a very successful conference. Thanks.
Thank you very much. We can have a group photograph as well. May I request all the dignitaries to kindly come in the front of the stage. I would also like to call upon His Excellence Dr. Mohammad Saad Al Tamami to kindly join us for a group picture. May I also call upon the ministers and other head of regulators present with us here at the inaugural ceremony to kindly join us at the stage for a group picture. His Excellencies can also join us here. Thank you very much, everyone. We'll slip into a very short tea break and we'll resume here in the same hall after 15 minutes for the first session of the day. Thank you, everyone.